everyone. Welcome to the Influent Network. This is Dr. John Scott for Beyond the White Coat. I really appreciate you coming in. I appreciate all the medical students and residents taking a moment to visit with us today. I've got a very special guest, a good friend of mine, Dr. Kraig De Lanzac. He is out of New Orleans, Louisiana. He's an anesthesiologist there, and he is heavily involved in advocacy. And I don't want to spoil everything. I want Dr. Lanzac to tell us about himself, how he got into medicine, and especially anesthesia, and then especially what's going on in the field of advocacy for it. Dr. Lanzac, I'll take it away, and if you don't mind, I'll call you Kraig, and you can call me John. Thank you.
Please. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me here, and thank all of you for listening in today and looking in today. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm a New Orleans native. I'm a lifer. We had our nice blizzard last week, so we're fresh off that. Not quite the snowfall that many of you get up north, but we'll take it every once in a while. I am currently the interim co-chair and associate professor at Tulane School of Medicine down here in New Orleans and have several roles at that facility. I'm also on the Louisiana Society of Anesthesiologists Board of Directors, and I coordinate our annual meeting and quite involved, as John said, in a lot of advocacy. And probably the role I'm most proud of is I am the secretary of the American Society of Anesthesiologists, a 59,000 member organization dedicated to the safe delivery of physician-led anesthesia care in this country. That's where I'm at, John.
Well, this is very interesting. I want everyone to understand that it doesn't do enough anymore just to do a good job and deliver quality health care. That's very important. But if you're not out there advocating for your specialty and especially for your patients, lesser care can occur. And so I really wanted Kraig today to talk about why he got so involved in anesthesia as far as advocacy. Tell me first off why you went into anesthesia, and then how you got started in the American Society of Anesthesiology, Louisiana Society of Anesthesia, and then in a little while I'll tell about a anecdote that Kraig has done in the past. So tell us more about that, Kraig.
Sure, John. Thank you. So when I went to medical school, first of all, I don't think growing up, I didn't think I was going to be a physician. I was interested, but didn't know. And then in college, I'd made that decision. And I was dead set I was going to be a pediatrician when I started medical school. And we did those personality surveys. I don't know if you've done those, John. I don't know if the current medical students do that. And mine was heavily skewed to this field of anesthesiology, which I have to admit, as a first-year medical student in 1989, I wasn't sure I understood what that field was, but it said, gee, my personality fit that. So I filed that away and went about my didactic years, my clinical years, and around third year decided this was a field that I was interested in, did some shadowing, and just jumped in and loved it. I stayed at LSU, which is where I went to medical school for my residency. And actually an event happened in my CA1 or CA2. That's for us, our second and third year of anesthesiology residency, that probably changed the path of my career, definitely changed the path of my life. And that was hearing about a issue that was being discussed at the Louisiana State Capitol. And like John, like you said, and probably like many of you listening there, I just wanted to practice medicine. I thought I was going to work very hard, train myself up, figure out how to practice anesthesiology. But I'd heard there was going to be a bill discussed, which at that time, circa 1995, 96, which would have allowed prescriptive authority.
Let me interrupt.
Yeah.
What is a bill? Tell us what do you mean?
Great point. Yeah. So, as you remember, in my day, we had Schoolhouse Rock that taught us all about how legislation was passed. But a bill is an instrument by which a state legislator can work to get something passed that becomes the state law. So anyone can go to their state legislator and say, hey, I'm really concerned about this issue. Friend of mine, state legislator, would you help me to work on this so I can change and shape the laws of the future of your state, wherever you practice? So a great question. It has to typically go through both sides of your state legislature and be voted upon and move through several committees in that process. So that's a great point. This bill had been proposed, being moved by the advanced practice nurses to allow them to prescribe medications, which now is fairly commonplace, but at that time it wasn't. And a friend of mine said, we should go to the Capitol and we should find out what's going on. He was my chief resident. He was a couple of years older than I was and more experienced. And I followed his advice and went up there. And I just thought you sat at a desk and you told the legislators what you thought and how you were trained, and they would just shake their heads and understand, and certainly understand that there was some concern about prescriptive authority for advanced practice nurses. What I learned on that 2-day stretch changed everything. I learned that it has nothing to do with sitting at that desk and testifying. All the work has to happen well before. And it changed me. And it changed my experience of healthcare and medicine. And I became fully engaged and wanted to find out what I could do more.
Well, it's really good, Kraig. Delve into a little bit more why you got so involved in this. So isn't it okay just to deliver good health care and take care of patients? Isn't that good enough?
Yeah, a good friend of both of ours, John, Dr. Jeff Plagenhoff, always says that, we're all the top 10% anesthesiologists in the country. And it being in that operating room, you do the greatest thing in the world. The problem is politics and community politics, state politics, national politics is very involved in healthcare. Almost everything we do, from the drugs we prescribe to how we prescribe to how we're licensed, in some way is regulated by some political or bureaucratic agency. And that seems, it seems confusing to some. We think, well, we're physicians. We know that the science of the healthcare, we know what our patients need. But a lot of these issues touch on greater public scope issues. So there are a lot of people that have their hands in healthcare, some of which I always say some of them can't pronounce the word anesthesiologist. And that's not to be negative, but it's a tough word. And yet they're passing laws and exacting restrictions on the practice of anesthesiology without really knowing. And John, as you know, the legislators, they're great people. They're very motivated. They're great leaders. We need them. They help us, but they can't know everything about everything. So they need folks like you, medical students, residents, physicians in practice like John and myself, to educate them on some of these issues that may be so specialized that even some of the anesthesiologists might not know all the details. So it's incumbent upon us to educate them to help our patients and to our fellow physicians.
Why do you want to be the secretary, i.e. hopefully someday the president of the ASA? Tell us, why do you want to do that?
Yeah, that's, if you went back to circa 1993, Kraig De Lanzac finishing medical school, there's no way that you could have convinced me that this is where I'd be sitting and talking about this and be in this possible role. It happened. I evolved. I saw something I brought to the organization at a local level. And then I saw that folks were listening to me at a different level, regional level. And then ultimately, when I became a member of the board of directors of the American Society of Anesthesiologists, I saw people listening to me at that level, and I had some ideas. And I didn't think I knew it all. I certainly still don't know it all, but I expressed my thoughts. I spent time thinking about what our challenges are in the field and how we could address them, and spent a lot of time talking to other smarter people than I, like yourself, and find out what they thought, what were their experiences, and how could we shape the future of anesthesiology. And I say this for every field. We have to shape the future of our specialties. We can't let others do it because they really don't know. Our patients, and we know their experiences, but others don't. But they're in positions, healthcare executives, leaders in different states, legislators in states are charged with some of these issues, but they don't know the specifics about what we do. So I eventually went through this process where, without setting my goal that I want to be this officer, I ended up finding myself in the place where I could. And I saw it as a greater platform for me to express some of the ideas, to see if I could motivate or inspire others. And, I'm a big believer in the term servant leadership. Is something, went to high school here in New Orleans, a all-male Catholic high school, and that was something preached to us, is that servant leaders are workers first, and they build others around them. And that was how I've followed in my trajectory in this leadership role.
Before I change to two more topics I want to get to before we end, one last thing before I change, would you please tell us the story about the Superdome?
The story about
Remember, you got the billboard above the Superdome.
Oh, yes. Thank
Very
you.
classic. This is what helped launch Kraig's career.
It really did. Thank you, John, for bringing that up. So we had a situation that we discovered in 2013 where the VA, the Veterans Health Administration, operates the VA hospitals that you see in major cities. And what the VA was proposing was to remove physician supervision of advanced practice registered nurses, including nurse anesthetists, who we work with very closely. That process took about 2 or 3 years for us explaining to the VA why this was a bad idea. It led to a public statement period where any citizen could write in and explain why, hey, the VA, you should not do this. The care team works. We practice in a care team with nurse anesthetists, many of us. The care team works. And it led to this long drive. So what we did is a couple things. I went and stood one day outside of the World War II Museum here in New Orleans and educated veterans that this was happening to the care that they were delivering and had them register. But I came up with the idea of buying a billboard outside of a major area in New Orleans, right outside of the Superdome. And that billboard explained that veterans need physician anesthesiologists and directed people to go to our site. And that billboard was biggest day. And one day I was very proud it was up there. It was a beautiful billboard. And one day I went down there. I come from work. It was a late night. And I had my father with me. And I said, I think I want to take a picture. So I made a pose that I'd seen on several different attorneys' websites and their billboards of me folding my arms and having a very stern and serious face underneath that billboard, something I absolutely believe that veterans deserve physician-delivered anesthesia care. And that little picture made it on a Facebook from my sister, I believe, made it into our national society, became a big part of how we changed the trajectory of that issue. We won that issue. In 2019, the Veterans Administration decided that anesthesiologists and nurse anesthetists constituted a great care team and that there should remain physician supervision of nurse anesthetists. Now, unfortunately, that battle continues.
There you go.
And looked at again. Yeah. So, just when you think you'd figured it out, you've got the problem solved. In 2019, we were great. In 2020, when COVID struck, a lot of things changed, and the Veterans Administration has decided to go at this in a different route. And now they're using something called the Nursing Handbook or their national standards, and looking to possibly once again remove anesthesiologists from the care of patients and go to a nurse-only model. Even after the VA themselves restated the importance of the anesthesia care team, they're still looking to do that. So we have been engaged as a national society. Thousands of members have taken an active role in trying to protect veterans' healthcare. And usually, John, the problem with anesthesiology is not a lot of people know what we do. And a lot of patients don't know who's taking care of them when they are going off to sleep. They hear someone say, I'm John from anesthesia, and they don't know if that's a nurse, a physician, or an anesthesiologist assistant in those states that have those. So it's important for us to get the word out. It's important for us to get the word out about our importance to the care of patients. And I always tell people, my father has unfortunately had to have a few surgeries this past year. When I have family that are going for surgery, not only do I want them to have an anesthesiologist involved, I usually want a specific anesthesiologist involved. And if I want that for my family, why wouldn't I want that for everyone? So I just want to keep the anesthesia care team together. I want anesthesiologists involved in the delivery of anesthesia care, whether it's personally provided or through a team effort with nurse anesthetists and anesthesiologist assistants. And I know I've gotten in the weeds there, but I think John explains to your audience how many different players there are in every specialty. Every specialty has nurse practitioners and physician assistants, and they can be extremely useful in a care team model. But we as physicians have to set the boundaries. We're trained at the highest level. We've all gone through some very challenging times to become physicians and to achieve board certification and your specialty certification. And there's a reason why it's hard, because taking care of patients is difficult.
Kraig, for our audience listeners, I know I'm an anesthesiologist, and I know Kraig's an anesthesiologist, but he really hit upon it. It's not just our specialty, it's all of our specialties. We want to work together with our brethren, our nurse practitioners, or nurse anesthetists, physicians, assistants. But it's the importance that we are the main person, because we are taught diagnosis as well as treatment. The medical school is one of the most valuable things you'll ever go through.
Yes.
And you don't ever want to forget that. And so others say that, well, I've had equal training. No, you hadn't. It's the importance that we work together as a team. So I really appreciate Kraig bringing that up and say it's not just for anesthesiologists, it's for all our specialties, because we are all threatened every day by different things that some people think the answer to all healthcare problems is to make everyone independent. And that's not the answer, because we've had so much training, and it took me 14 years to get to where I am. I don't know about Kraig, but it took a long time, and it takes practice and years of training. Now, I want to switch over before our time is up. One of the things, Kraig, is very important, is mental health. And I speak to a lot of residents about burnout, stress, and suicide. I really would like for you, he's such a great ambassador for our specialty, for medicine, for physicians. And Kraig, please tell us about what you believe, what you do, and how can we get better?
Yeah, I think you hit a topic there. And as physicians in the good old days, as you hear talked about, you just toughed it out. You went through a rough day and you just toughed it out. And now we realize that takes a toll. We realize that the toll taken on physicians then trickles down to the care of our patients. So healthier, better, safer, well-being physicians create a healthier environment for patient care. We see that all the time. When we have a bad outcome, John, as you know, it's not just the patient's outcome. We feel it. And I will tell you, one of the, in talking about engagement in medical societies like the LSA and the American Society of Anesthesiologists, to me, that is one of my well-being activities. When I get together with my colleagues at a meeting, I'll be going to a meeting this weekend, I'm refreshed, I'm inspired, I'm a little bit intimidated. You see some very high-flying individuals meetings, but I come back recharged and ready to go. So my hope is I can be that person for someone else in our field and in other fields who recharges them. And you never know. I always talk, someone's always watching you. You're always either leading or following, but someone's always watching you. You never know who's going to tell you they're inspired by you later. So try to do good and work hard, and you'll inspire these others. So I believe all of that, the hard work we put in, when we give great care to our patients and they recognize that is just fantastic. But there's days when you just didn't have a great day, when things didn't go right, maybe not of your own. You need to pick me up. And I look to my colleagues, to my family, but I look to my national society as well to pick me up and to help me with some of those well-being issues. You need to develop yourself outside of just your medical specialty. John, I probably define myself more as an anesthesiologist than just about anything. And I don't know if that's the safest, healthiest way, but it's what brings me great joy in my practice, is being engaged, coming home at the end of the day and not just turning off that practice. Being a family person, I took care of coached all my kids' sports, went to all the concerts, did everything. My wife and I vacation. We have a lot of fun, but my career is at the center of my life with my family. So I think all those things put together make for a safer, healthier, happier physician, which ultimately trickles down to the care of our patients.
You hit upon it. You didn't say the exact words, but I want you to say, I've been blessed in life to have some great mentors. What do you think about mentorship?
And I had those folks, the accidental mentors that didn't know they were my mentors. And I might not have known they were my mentors, but just folks that I followed, that I I saw their example. I talked to them. I explained my concerns about the field and medicine, and they gave me the time. And I have really tried to do the same for those behind me. I think leaving a legacy is so important. You talk about in many leaders, they are working for the here and now, but it's here now, but it's also to leave. I want to leave anesthesiology better than I found it. I want medical students to be enlightened and realize that they can be those mentors, develop those relationships, and their legacy becomes the folks behind them. I received a phone call today from a former resident that just touched me, told me how I changed the path of their career. And it's just a happenstance phone call letting me know that they'll be in town and I'll probably meet with that former resident. That is an incredible boost for your well-being, that you made a difference. And I think everybody, no matter how much you think you're not the one, imposter syndrome is real. Everyone can have an impact on those that follow behind. And ultimately, John, as you know, I feel our goal as physicians and physician leaders is to make it easier for the folks that come behind us. We need to blaze the path and make it easier, regardless of your background, for the folks that follow you.
One other thing I want you to really hit upon is you've mentioned a bad day, but also a bad outcome.
Yeah.
It's just the way we are. And then it's when your colleagues beat up on you and make you feel bad and make you feel like you were horrible. If you have a good heart and a good soul and you mean well, that's where having somebody that you can call, that you trust, and they believe in you no matter what. What are your thoughts, Kraig?
That's just such a great point. I'm such a perfectionist. I get disappointed when I miss an IV, John. That will stick with me through the day. And I'll tell my buddies, man, I can't believe I missed that patient's IV. And as medical students and residents, I know you've missed IVs too. But then there's the bigger complications. And the one thing I've learned is years ago, one of my best friends told me being in an anesthesiology group, as in any medical practice, is a lot like joining a family. And you have to be able to go to those family members to console you, for you to console them. And I think I've expanded that. And I think I encourage others to expand that group and expand their family through engagement in medical societies. John and I would not have met if we weren't both involved in the American Society of Anesthesiologists. He and I both have contacts that we can pick up on just about any subject in anesthesiology and advocacy and otherwise that is an expert. And that safety net for me of knowing I have the support, I can call them for advice on a bad outcome. I can call them for advice ahead of time on a case. I've picked up the phone and called friends and said, I've got this interesting case coming, and I know you presented on it a couple of years back. What can you tell me? What can I do? So I just feel like that provides this wonderful net and safety net for me as a physician. And we do need others. I think we as physicians probably weren't as good in the past about expressing our emotions. I'm probably too emotional with these things on both sides, happiness and on the sadness. But I think it's important. And I love talking to my patients and having a good time with my patients. And the nice thing about our field is we have those brief moments where we can relax the patient through our behavior. So if we're running around stressed and we're not doing well, the patients feel that. But if you can stop as you're getting your history and engage with that patient, make their day lighter, because most patients coming to us, John, are not having their best day. They're coming for surgery. They're scared. And our job is to relax them, to put them at ease, and to make sure they know that I've got them. I tell patients all the time, I'm a professional worrier. I will do the worrying for you today. Give me that burden. And they love to hear that.
Before we go, one last thing. I always ask everybody, pearls of wisdom. If you had to do all over again, what would you do differently? And would you still go into medicine? And if you do, what were some of the things, the lessons learned that you can pass on to the next generation?
Well, that's a great question too. I absolutely would have still gone into medicine. I love what I do. It has been challenging. There are days that I wished I had not gone to medicine, but I love what I do. I think the thing I would do for myself, I think it's Walt Disney that says it's always great. it's good to have a good, hard failure early in your career. And then you realize you're vulnerable and that you can have these things and you build on those. I had a couple of failures in my advocacy career, and they weren't necessarily of my own. It's just we didn't win. And that changed me. And I think one of the things I would do is I wouldn't be as hard on myself as I think I've been in my career. I wouldn't take these things so personally. That may decrease the amount of passion that I have for my field if that had happened. But I think I needed to allow myself to have some failures and allow myself to see what could I have done differently. So I think I would absolutely do the same thing. I would probably go into those battles that I went into, whether I won or lost, maybe try to build a stronger team. And I think I learned that I can't do it all by myself. I must have a team around me. And I think that has changed me. And I think that's what I look for now is I love to build teams. I love to see the synergy. I love when we go to a meeting and I can connect you with someone I know that you don't know. So I think if I had to do it again, stay with medicine, build strong teams, take it easier on myself, and try to stop and enjoy the things that are so positive around me.
Very well said, Kraig. I can't express more your feelings on this because we all face problems. We all feel like we're alone. And Kraig just told us we're not.
Nope.
And I really want you to reach out to mentors, someone that you can talk to, believe in, that believes in you. That's the main thing. They believe in you when you don't. Not everybody's going to have a great day. Not everybody's going to have the highest grades. Not everybody's going to be in a place they want to be, but we have to work through it. I don't want any of you to quit. I want you to give yourself a break. Get in time to go enjoy yourself, enjoy your family. My escape is working out, martial arts, those kind of things. So I really appreciate Kraig coming on today. We'll hopefully have Kraig come back in a time to come to express more. This has been a great opportunity. I'm going to leave you today with the ideas that I will have future great people like Dr. De Lanzac today. We'll have business people, we'll have entrepreneurs, we'll have university people, we'll have chancellors, we'll have a variety of people. But all this is for you not to feel alone. So thank you again, Dr. De Lanzac, and thank you, Dr. John Scott from the Influent Network, Beyond the White Coat. Thank you and see you next time.